Ladies and gentlemen, the ceremony will begin in 5 minutes, so please make your way to your seats. In addition, please silence or turn off your electronic devices so our ceremony goes uninterrupted. Thank you. Good morning once again. Can everyone please take their seats? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we ask that you make your way to the seats so we can start our program. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am Nolan Lewis, Chair of the Delaware Commission of Veterans Affairs. On behalf of the DCVA, Delaware River and Bay Authority, and the Delaware National Guard, welcome to today's ceremony. The war memorial that stands before us contains the names of 15,000 Delaware and New Jersey members who gave their lives during World War II and the Korean War. At this time, we ask that you observe a moment of silence for those names inscribed on the memorial and for all who have given the last full measure. Can you please rise? Please rise for the presentation of the colors by the Delaware National Guard, Joint Honor Guard, and National Anthem sung by Army Specialist Carter Stephan. Present the colors.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please remain standing. I now ask for the chaplain, Andrew Weiner, to come forward to deliver our invocation.
Let us pray. Almighty God, you give us life and breath. We gather here to honor those who have served our nation and gave their last full measure. They never made it home to family and friends. Be with their families especially. Give them comfort and strength. Generation after generation, the fallen have preserved our liberty. Remind us again that liberty is not free, but it is of great cost. We honor our fallen service today. Almighty, meet us here. You are the author of life and freedom. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain. Please be seated. At this time, we would like to recognize our distinguished guests in the audience. Please stand when recognized. The 46th President of the United States, the Honorable Joseph R. Biden. Acknowledgments from our Honorable Governor, Matthew Myers, during his absence and his regret. The Honorable Lieutenant Governor Carl Evans Gay. The Honorable U.S. Senator Lisa Blunt Rochester. The Honorable U.S. Representative Sarah McBride. The Honorable former U.S. Senator Tom Carper. The Honorable Secretary of State Patabanda Sanchez. The Honorable Delaware Attorney General Kathleen Jennings. The Honorable Insurance Commissioner Trinidad Navarro. The Honorable Delaware Auditor of Accounts Lydia York. Adjutant Major General James Benson. President pro tempore of the Delaware State Senate, Senator Dave Scola. State Representative and Chair of the House of Veterans Affairs Committee, nominee Chipoka. Representatives and Senators of the Delaware General Assembly. Executive Director of the Delaware River and Bay Authority, Tom Cook. Executive Director of the Wilmington VA Medical Center, Vamise Potlori. Acting Director of the Office of Veterans Services, Dennis Linden. Delaware Commissioner of Veterans Affairs. I have to my left my Vice Chair, Doug Hudson. Also, Commissioner McGuire, Commissioner Rambo, Commissioner Espino, Commissioner Schroeder, and Commissioner Harwood. I don't see it. Okay. The Delaware River and Bay Authority Commissioners. And last but not least, our Gold Star families. We extend our thanks to all other officials, service members, veteran service organizations, family members, and all veterans in attendance who were not formally recognized. It is now time for our Memorial Day messages. At this time, please welcome former U.S. Senator Tom Carper.
Good morning. How are you doing? Great to be with all of you today. Martha and I are delighted that you're here. We're delighted that we are here. We've been coming here for some of us. Been coming here for quite a while, Mr. President, and it's glad we're able to make it, and delighted that you're all able to make it as well. To all of our elected officials that lead our state, our county, help lead our country. Lisa Blunt Rochester, whose office is in 513 Hart, my old office in the United States. Her office, she sits at my old desk, and it looks a lot better. I must say, but it's great to be here with all of you. I want to start off with some thank yous, if I may. I want to thank the people of Delaware for welcoming me here. Gosh, over 50 years ago, I'd been a naval flight officer in the Vietnam War, 3 tours, and came back home to the U.S. and made my way to Delaware. And got an MBA at the University of Delaware. Thank God for the GI Bill. Anybody here use the GI Bill? Anybody here use the GI Bill? Let's hear it for the GI Bill. This guy right up here probably did more than anybody I know to make sure we have a terrific GI Bill. But thank you for that GI Bill. Thank you for giving me the privilege to serve as your state treasurer, as your congressman, as your governor, and as your United States senator. What a privilege it has been. I want to. My job is to sort of like to introduce the 46th president of the United States. Ever try to introduce somebody that doesn't need an introduction? Well, at this audience with these people and all of you here today, this particular fellow doesn't need an introduction. My guess is that all of us could come up here and everybody could help give that introduction, but I think it falls on me to do that today. Before I do that, I want to take a minute, if I can, and share with you, not everybody knows how we ended up with Memorial Day. In fact, my guess is most of us don't. And I'm just going to take, before I introduce President Biden, I'm going to take just a minute or two and just kind of tell us where Memorial Day came from. How do we end up with Memorial Day in this country? A fellow named Frederick Douglass, one of the early giants in the history of our country, believed that Decoration Day, some of you may remember Decoration Day, which was the original name for Memorial Day, was our nation's most significant holiday. On May 30th, 1871, the 4th annual observance of Decoration Day, he honored the unknown Union soldiers at Arlington National Cemetery who died in the Civil War. Douglass spoke that day of his concern that with the passage of time, the lives of 400,000 Union soldiers who died in that war, and even the meaning of the war itself, might be forgotten. He asked that day a question. He said, what should we remember them for? He asked that question not once but twice. What should we remember them for? And then he answered his own question. He replied, not once but twice, they died for their country. They died for their country. In truth, they fought to end the tyranny of slavery and to build a nation that embodied hope, freedom, and self-government throughout the world. Douglass devoted the remainder of his time to ensuring that these men did not die in vain. Gradually, Decoration Day assumed a lasting place in the calendar of national celebrations in America. In 1890, all of the United States had officially adopted it, and in the aftermath of World War I, it came to encompass the dead of all American wars. In 1967, Congress changed the name of this holiday to Memorial Day, 1967. They moved its day from May 30th to the last Monday in the month of May. And Memorial Day came to be celebrated by many as it came to be celebrated as the start of summer. And came to be celebrated as a holiday to spend at the beach, rather than to reflect on history or decorate the graves or honor the dead. If Douglas were alive today, he would probably be shocked, maybe appalled, by the dissension and rancor that characterizes so much of the public discourse that takes place in our nation's capital and across America. Most likely, he would stop and remind us to lower our voices and listen instead to the voices of those who laid down their lives so that we might have a better life. The sacrifice of those who have served us in uniform literally did save our nation. They literally did save our union. And by our presence here today and in countless other gatherings across America, we make clear that we still understand and embrace that truth. And now for a few words about our 46th President of the United States, Delaware's Joe Biden. And again, many people in the audience they could stand up here and do this by heart. And we know him for so long and so well. So I'm not going to dwell at length about his bio. But I do want to tell you three really quick stories that I think say a lot more about him than any recitation of his bio. First of all, a bipartisan infrastructure bill. Joe Biden had been president for like a week. And he called me on the phone in Washington and said, Tommy, I want you to come over to my office. I want you to come over to my office this week in the Oval Office, and I want you to bring a couple of Democrats, a couple of Republicans from your Committee on Environment and Public Works, and I want us to figure out how we're going to not just talk about an infrastructure bill, an infrastructure program for our country, but actually build one. And 6 days later, I was in his office, and I had with me Shelley Capito, Republican from West Virginia, and several others, Ben Cardin from Maryland, and others. And we sat there with the president. And I'll never forget that day. My guess is you won't either, Mr. President. And what he said to us that day is he said, we got to stop just talking about rebuilding our infrastructure, our roads, our highways, our bridges, our airports, our railroads, ports. We got to actually do it. And he said, I want you to, looking at us as served on the Environment and Public Works, I want you to report out a committee, a bill by Memorial Day. I want you to report out to the Senate a bill by Memorial Day. And we said, yes, sir. And we talked for it a little bit longer and then left. And I remember standing outside your office and somebody said to me, who's going to do this? And I said, we are. We are. By the end of that summer, we actually took up on the Senate floor and the House floor the biggest infrastructure bill ever in history of the history of our country. And before Thanksgiving, President Joe Biden put his name on that legislation, and we were off and running. But it took his leadership, his insistence that we have not just Democrats in the room, but Republicans as well. Not just the House, but the Senate. And that's what we did. And it led us to the biggest infrastructure bill ever and helped launch one of the strongest economic recoveries in the history of our country. That's one story I wanted to share with you. Another story I want to share with you deals with Ukraine. Anybody here ever been to Ukraine? I know some have. Some have actually been to Ukraine. And President Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, wonderful human being, was speaking a couple of months ago to a combined session of the Senate. And we all gathered in the old Senate chamber, and it's really packed, really crowded, and President Zelensky was introduced. And I sat in the audience, like right where you're sitting, that far away. And he was up here, was introduced to speak and spoke. I was wearing that day, as I am today, a lapel pin that combines the U.S. flag and the Ukrainian flag. And I noticed in the course of his remarks, his eyes kept coming back to my lapel pin, my flag pin. And when he finished speaking, huge audience, Democrats, Republicans on the House and Senate, and a great applause. I thought it would never end. And when he finished, the event finished, he didn't just leave. He literally walked over to where I was standing. And I stood up, and I said, Mr. President, you are a hero. To President Zelensky, I said, you are a hero. He took his hand, I'll never forget it. He put it right on this lapel pin that has the Ukrainian flag and the American flag. He put it right there. And he said, no, he said, you are our heroes. And he said, and President Biden is the biggest hero of them all. We in the Ukraine, we love him, we love him, we love him. One last quick story, and I'll pass the baton. Martha and I have a couple of boys, and the youngest one is Ben. Ben grew up in public schools here in Delaware and turned out pretty well. And Ben got in, couldn't get it. He was waitlisted at the University of Delaware. That's a joke. But he ended up getting into William and Mary. And we were driving down to William and Mary to help him move into his dorm as a freshman at William and Mary. And as we're driving down with the car that day with Ben and Martha and myself, I don't think Christopher was with us that day, but we're driving down, and the phone rang. And it was a time when Barack Obama was the nominee, going to be the nominee of the Democrats for president, and he was trying to figure out who to make his running mate. And there was a lot of speculation that it might be Evan Bayh, it might be this person, it might be Joe Biden. And we were expected to hear, literally that day, it was a Saturday, we were literally expected to hear that day who Barack was going to choose as his running mate. And the phone rang, and on the phone was Joe Biden. And I said to him, I said, are you going to be the vice president? He said, no, I'm not calling about that. I said, well, what are you calling about? He said, I called to talk to Ben. Really? Ben, who was just graduating from high school and just starting college and moving into his dorm for the first time. He said, I'm calling to talk to Ben. I said, Ben Carper? And he said, yes, put him on the phone. So I put him on the phone, and as it turned out, Joe Biden wasn't calling to say that he had made the list, he was going to be the vice presidential candidate, or he wasn't, or was going to fight. We'll find out the next day. He was calling to talk to Ben Carper, as Ben was ready to set off in his next adventure to be a freshman and later on to go off to do amazing things with his life. I thought to myself, how many sitting senators who are going to someday be vice president and president would call and ask to talk to Ben Carper or any Ben or any other kid who's going to college, just to give them advice and wish them well. And I will never forget that. I will never forget that. And I would just suggest if that were your kid, your son or daughter, you would not forget it either. Let me maybe do one more thing if I can. Someone gave me, Joe, I don't know if, maybe it was Hunter over here gave it to me, but gave me some words that said, whatever you say, don't forget to say this about Joe Biden. A visionary, a respected leader around the world, a compassionate man who was interested in everyday people. All right. I think, Martha, what did I forget? Nothing? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's it for me. And with that, with me, where's Ronnie? Ronnie? Where's Ronnie? Ronnie, where are you, buddy? All right. Is this the time to introduce the 46th President of the United States, Delaware's Joe Biden? Let's hear it for, on your feet. Let me hear you. Put it on you. Woo! Glad you're home. Thank you. No, come on, you can do better than that. Go on. Knock it out of the park.
Thank you very much. The greatest honor of my life has been for 4 years being the Commander-in-Chief of the United States. The fact is that I don't think if I had come from any other state that would have happened. But in Delaware, everybody knows everybody. And it's important. It's important because, you know, we had that expression for the longest time. We do things the Delaware way. The Delaware way. Members of the House and Senate know, Democrat or Republican. They've learned to work together for the benefit of Delaware. Now remember, Tommy, we've been coming here for decades. First time I was here, I was reminded of that quote from R.G. Ingersoll, who said, "When the will defies fear, when duty throws the gauntlet down to fate, when they shun compromise with death, that's heroism." I remember thinking that day, the first time. Thinking about my uncles in World War II, thinking about people I knew, thinking about all the people who had laid down their lives. And ladies and gentlemen, it's good to be with so many friends on this solemn occasion. Tommy, Kyle, Lisa, Sarah, Nolan, and you're all outstanding leaders and proud Delawareans. And Chaplain, thank you for your invocation. And I want to acknowledge the keynote speaker today, a pathbreaker and a patriot, Chief Warrant Officer Ernestine Epps. Ernestine, thank you. Thank you for being willing to do this. I'm looking forward to hearing you. Folks, every year we come together to remember the brave women and men who gave their all for this nation, or as Lincoln called it, the last full measure of devotion. That's what it was, the last full measure of devotion. They laid down their lives so we could live our lives in peace, and maybe the most important word, with possibilities. And I know I speak for everyone here, and when I say we remember them every single day, not just this day, but every day, the people assembled under this tent. Remember them every day. We come together to remember the families that are left behind, the hearts that still carry the weight of their absence, the ache that never fully goes away. We come together to remember the debt we owe to the American military. The military is the solid spine, the spine of our nation. Our troops, our veterans, our military families, and our Gold Star families in particular. Only around 1% of all Americans defend 99% of us. 1%. Just 1% of Americans risk the ultimate sacrifice. We owe them so much more than we can ever repay them. We have many obligations as a nation, but only one truly sacred obligation. Sacred obligation. That's to equip those we send into harm's way and care for them when their families when they come home and when they don't come home. It's a sacred obligation. I know for many of you, Memorial Day, like for us, is deeply personal. For the Bidens, this day is the 10th anniversary of the loss of my son, Bo, who spent a year in Iraq. And to be honest, it's a hard day. His son and I, Hunter, who's here in the crowd, I don't know where you're sitting, Hunter, but all the way in the back there. His daddy came to this event with me about the same age when he started. He just graduated from high school, heading off to college. And you know, it's being with all of you, but quite frankly, makes things a little bit easier. It really does. So thank you for allowing me to grieve with you. Some of you knew my son, Bo. He served in the Delaware National Guard, including a year in Iraq. Remember, I got a phone call. I was in Washington. Dad, what are you doing Friday? I said, what do you need, honey? He said, I want you to pin my bars on. I said, pin your bars on? You have 2 kids, you know, Dad, somebody's got to do this, Dad. Proudest day of his life was putting that uniform on. That's not a joke. That's not hyperbole. That's real. And you know, it's one of the proudest things I ever did, pinning his bars on him. And it means so much to our family. At the headquarters of the Delaware National Guard has been renamed after Bo. His legacy lives on. His children, his grandchildren, his great-grandchildren, like those you lost, will be remembered. They'll remember who he was. And just like the legacy of all our fallen heroes lives on, they live on in us. And they live on in the strength and freedom of our nation. That sounds like hyperbole, but it's real. It's literal. So everyone who came here today to grieve with grief in your heart, please know you're not alone. You'll never be alone. And your loved one will never be forgotten. Period. My friends, Memorial Day is about something profound. Our politics have become so divided and so bitter. All the years I've been doing this, I never thought we'd get to this point. But we are. Our troops don't wear a uniform that says, I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican. It says, I'm an American. I'm an American. That's who I am. I'm serious about this. I'm not joking. And folks, our politics has become, as I said, so divided. They wear the uniform of the United States of America. The only nation in the world, literally, not free, the only nation in the world founded on an idea. An idea. Every nation was founded on geography, ethnicity, some unifying principle, but not an idea. The idea of America was founded on, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal, endowed by the Creator with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. We mean it. That's who we are. That's what makes America the most unique nation in the world, literally, not figuratively. In fact, folks, you know, for generation after generation, the profound idea has been defended by ordinary citizens who stepped up and answered the call. Because of them, American democracy has endured for nearly 250 years. Every generation has to fight to maintain that democracy. Every time, every generation. Because of them, our government is still of the people, by the people, and for the people. They are we, and we are still free. And now, we must make sure that sacrifice has never been in vain. Let me close with this. The women and men we honor today who are no longer with us, but you can still hear their echoes. Literally, can't you, if you lost anybody? You can hear their echoes. The echoes of their voices. They're asking, what will we do? We who are alive, we who remain. They're not asking us to risk our lives. They're asking us to stay true to what America stands for. They're not asking us to do their jobs. They're asking us to do our job, to protect our nation in our time, now, to defend democracy, to be part of something bigger than ourselves. So today, let's renew our pledge to honor our heroes. I mean this sincerely. Renew our pledge to honor our heroes. Think of what they did. Think what they'd be doing if they were standing here today with us. Not only with our words, with our deeds. To care for their families. To support our veterans. With more, not less. I get really angry when I hear about veterans are seeking too much. They're not enough. That's why I wrote the legislation relating to Gold Star families and the rest. It's an obligation we have. It's a matter of honor. Honor. Ladies and gentlemen, to make sure our democracy always lives up to their bravery. To their bravery. And I want to thank you very much, and I want to recognize the guy who's brand new to all this. He's only a little over 100 years old. But I tell you what, man, every time I come, I love seeing him because he always pats me on the face and gives me a kiss. Sir, thank you for all you've done. Your generation and every generation since then. And folks, and I want to say this from the bottom of my heart, thank you, particularly to the Gold Star families. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The country owes you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Carper and President Biden. At this time, please welcome Lieutenant Governor Kyle Evans-Gay.
Thank you, sir. Well, good morning, and I just, not scripted, we all are so pleased to have you here, sir, and for your sacrifice in serving all of those years in public service, for everything you have accomplished on our behalf, and for never giving up on Delaware, our nation, so thank you. It is an absolute honor to be assembled here with you today, in particular to our commission, all of our honored members, my state colleagues, and members of the General Assembly, in particular to those who are serving on our Joint Finance Committee and who could not be here today. I know they are with us in spirit doing the good work that we do every day. And to many who are gathered here today, welcome back. This ceremony of remembrance has been for us, for many of us, an important annual touch point. A time and a place to remember, yes, but also to rededicate, refocus, recommit to the work that we do every day, with the humble hope that it honors the sacrifices of those who have given everything so that we may be free. For those joining us for the first time, welcome, and we hope to see you back. May you too become connected to this place, to this community, and to our shared obligation and pledge to be good and true stewards of this republic for whom some gave all. To our active military members here today and to our veterans, thank you. We know that as we honor our fallen today, the sacrifices of service are many-fold, and that the loss of those who you served with, who you protected, and who protected you creates invisible chasms that can be difficult to describe or explain to anyone who has not walked in your shoes. Your dedication to remembering our fallen is a constant reminder that we all must never forget. And to our Gold Star mothers and families, it's hard to find the words. So instead, I'd like to share with you a brief story that better explains how I feel today. Last weekend, I was standing with Judy at our Delaware Veterans Memorial Cemetery in Bear. A young group of scouts came up to us and introduced themselves. One noticed Judy's name tag and asked if she worked for the government. No, she explained, I'm here because I lost my son, who served our country with honor. And then, without hesitation, these young men, boys really, surrounded Judy and they hugged her. Well, we're all those scouts today, and we are surrounding you with the love that you deserve. We stand with you today and every day. Because even when Memorial Day ceremonies conclude, our duty to the fallen does not. We continue honoring them by telling their stories, teaching their values, and upholding the promises they fought so hard to protect. President John F. Kennedy once said, "As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter the words, but to live by them." We honor our fallen by living lives worthy of their sacrifice, striving to uphold the standard of service they set in the roles we are privileged to hold. And we honor the fallen by telling their stories. These past few weeks, as my children have been counting down the final days until summer arrives, they have also noticed the fields of flags as I shuttle them from one activity to the next. Questions about those fields have given me the opportunity to be that storyteller, to sustain the memories of those we have lost, and to honor the service of those I know and love. To tell them about their uncles and their grandfather who enlisted in the armed services as young men, only to return aged beyond their years. To share the honor I felt as a young attorney, walking alongside an attorney general who not only served our country, but whose work and advocacy protected children here at home. To bring them to places like this memorial, to read the names on the walls behind us so that they can begin to understand the gravity of all that has been sacrificed. This solemn day is a powerful reminder that freedom has a hefty cost. Let us all commit to telling the stories, to showing our gratitude, and to living lives worthy of the sacrifices that have been made. Thank you.
Thank you. I need to, I guess, backtrack. When I was mentioning our representatives, I left out one person, and that is the mayor of Wilmington, John Carney. All gave some, and some gave all. At this time, I lost my thought. Sorry to my heart. At this time, I'm going to introduce our next speaker, Senator Lisa Blunt Rochester.
Thank you, Commissioner Lewis. Someone just said, "Let me be blunt." I heard you. Protocol having been established, I want to start off by thanking the Delaware Commission of Veterans Affairs, the Delaware River and Bay Authority, and the Delaware Office of Veteran Services for again hosting an incredible event. Today is even more special. The speeches that we have heard, the presence of all of you, it is truly an honor to be here. And I also want to extend my deep gratitude to President Joe Biden for your years of service, and especially for being here on a day that I know is so important to you and your family, and to have your grandson Hunt here as well, Bo's son. One of the things that was not mentioned is your commitment in ensuring that the PAC Act, like not just thinking about veterans, but living up to the ideals, the promises that we made. I feel it was and Senator Carper, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was one of the largest investments ever made for our veterans. And so please, the PAC Act, this president did that. President Joe Biden, along with the House and the Senate. And I'm also pleased to join my predecessor and my good friend, Senator Tom Carper. I'm glad you started off with Frederick Douglass and Decoration Day, because I think a lot of times we do things routinely. but we don't really know why we did them. And so to remind us that it was at a time when our country was tearing apart, that for our veterans we came together. And so thank you so much for your service. To our Lieutenant Governor, Kyle, what a beautiful, beautiful tribute you gave as well in representing our governor in our state, and to all of the incredible elected officials. I'm proud to be here with our Congresswoman Sarah McBride, and also representing Senator Chris Coons in his absence as well. Thank you to all of the leaders of our state, all of the veterans, the service members, the families, and our community at large. Thank you for joining us. I am reminded that soon we will celebrate the 250th anniversary of our country. 250 years. 250 years. Memorial Day calls to us. It calls upon us to remember those who fought for liberty, for freedom, and for justice, and for what it means. It is a day to recommit to those values and to pledge ourselves to service in the memory of those who gave all. Memorial Day is also a day of reflection, and it's also a day of gratitude to the families, especially the Gold Star families. Gratitude for those who paid the ultimate sacrifice. And today we know there are so many stories up and down this state throughout the years, the 250 years. Whether it is Private First Class Frank J. Cox, a Wilmington resident who lost his life in 1943 during the invasion of mainland Italy in World War II, or SP5 Richard Dennison of Sussex County, who lost his life in 1971 when a Chinook collided with a Republic of Korea plane in Vietnam. Like Matthew Flacco, a Newark resident and a Navy soldier specializing in weather for the Department of Defense, who lost his life on September 11th during the attack on the Pentagon. And like Elizabeth Lockney, a Newcastle resident and graduate of the Naval Tech Explosive Ordnance Disposal School. Remember Elizabeth. Many of you remember was in 2007 when a car bombing, 20 days before she was meant to come home, she perished in a tour in Iraq. We hold Frank and Richard and Matthew and all of those who gave their lives in service in our hearts today, and the countless stories up and down this state. We hold our Gold Star families, our Gold Star mothers in our hearts. The mothers, the fathers, the husbands, wives, daughters, sons, friends who gave their lives for the sake of liberty and freedom. We give you our thanks, we give you our love. I also give the Biden family our love on the loss of one of the most beautiful and brilliant service members and public servants in this state. I remember as I was, after I lost my husband, Bo called me in the hospital. The president called me in the hospital. And I know President Biden says this to families like he said to me, that there will come a time when the mention of the person's name will bring a smile to your face before it brings a tear to your eye. We thank you. We thank Bo. We thank your family. I began by talking about the fraying and the tearing of a country. Well, the very fabric of America is stitched together by the men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice to protect our homeland. Every state, yes, the very fabric. Every state, county, and community across our great nation is made safer by their sacrifice and by the freedoms they fought for. And those freedoms extend not just to America, but around the world. So on this Memorial Day, as we put our hand on our heart, or as we salute these decorations, let us remember, let us reflect, and let us recommit to living the legacy that they leave behind. Thank you.
At this time, please welcome U.S. Representative Sarah McBride.
Good morning, everyone. Commissioner Lewis, and to all of the commissioners and every office, every Delawarean who made today possible, thank you very much for bringing us together. Can we give them another round of applause for always organizing such a powerful, powerful ceremony? It is an honor to join you all today as your new representative in Congress. While I have joined for this ceremony before alongside my former colleagues in the Delaware General Assembly, it is a privilege to be before you all today representing the greatest state in the Union in Congress and to have the privilege